Young people in Massachusetts are preparing for their futures. They're choosing colleges, applying for jobs, opening their first bank accounts, taking on student loans, earning their first paychecks. They're making financial decisions that can shape the rest of their lives. But here's the question: where are they supposed to learn how to do that? For generations, financial education has not been a consistent part of the high school experience in Massachusetts. While some students are fortunate enough to have a dedicated teacher or an elective course, many graduate without ever learning the fundamentals of managing money, building credit, paying taxes, or planning for long-term financial success. So if students aren't learning these lessons in school, where are they learning from? For many, the answer begins at home. Long before we ever hear the words financial literacy, we're absorbing messages about money. We watch how our families save, spend, borrow, give, and plan. We inherit habits, beliefs, fears, and aspirations, sometimes without even realizing it. Some of those lessons prepare us for the future. Others leave questions unanswered. At the Midas Collaborative, we believe every Massachusetts student deserves access to high-quality financial education, not because wealth should determine opportunity, but because financial knowledge is a foundation for economic mobility, confidence, and informed decision-making. As a statewide nonprofit working to expand financial empowerment, we partner with educators, community organizations, and policymakers to help make financial literacy a right for every student, not a privilege available only to some. But before we can understand what should be taught in the classroom, we first have to understand what we're already learning outside of it. So we asked people to reflect on the financial lessons they've inherited. What conversations about money happened in their homes? How have those experiences shaped the way they think about finances today? What did school teach them? And what do they wish they had learned before stepping into adulthood? Their answers tell a story that goes far beyond dollars and cents. They reveal the culture, experiences, and values that shape our relationship with money, and why expanding access to financial education matters for every generation.
I am a recent graduate from Suffolk University, just right here in downtown. And I graduated with a double major in global business and finance. I am from Ecuador, and I am the oldest of four. I'm also a first generation student. I was the first one in my family to go to college. And I would say that my family's first, like, that's where my feelings about money and like my idea about around money comes from, and it's like very cultural, I would say, because I would say in Latin American countries, but in general in my culture in Ecuador is very, there's not a lot of financial literacy, I would say. So people really loan a lot, like they borrow a lot of money, and like people are used to living like that. And like there's also this sense of a scarcity almost every time. Maybe like we are not, in a bad situation economically, but people have this feeling towards money. On the other hand, I would say culturally, people are very entrepreneurial. They always want to be like, your own boss, and they want to always come up with something. Like, there's, like, if someone is unemployed, they're going to look like every way to get money around. Since I was very little, I had exposure to the financials of my family. I don't know if that was something good or something bad, but when I was little, I would feel, since I was very young, I felt stress around financials and like around money. And like, I remember, I don't remember this, but when my mother, uh, she she was pregnant with my little sister, I got very stressed about it. I was like, we're ready to. I grew up very stressed about money, and I think I didn't realize at the moment when I picked my career in finance and business, but later on, I realized how I was interested in those areas because how I grew up. No financial education during my early years, and none until I came to college. Yeah. When you don't really know a lot about something, it is easier for you to come to these anxious thoughts and like this very emotional crisis. And I say if I had more education around it, like there's a safety in everything, and like this is how it works, or these are your options. Like, not surely it's gonna end in a bad place. I would not have this feeling growing up. And yes, I say at least a little bit of financial education during high school, not even like elementary school, like high school would be fine. And just knowing how to invest probably is also another thing I would have really valued. But I've heard from classmates and uh, other people around here that I have known about how there's also not a lot of financial education like earlier in people's years. But I would say very, very curious first, and also give it the importance that it deserves without like coming from an anxious place, of course, but giving it the importance it takes and just trying to learn like every time more, and also be open to expose yourself to people and organizations that want to help with that. And like, in college, there's always events at clubs that the university organizes. Of course, I know not everyone has the privilege to go to college, but I would say there are a lot of organizations that want to help and like want to take care of these purposes. Yeah, be curious and don't be scared to learn.
One lesson about money that someone taught me is to always spend it on something worthwhile. Don't buy a cheap thing 10 times when you can buy a fancy thing one time.
This is a biggie, so hold on to your seat here. But the love of my life, Barry, told me when I first met him, he said, I never carry a credit card balance. And I was stunned. Oh, I was stunned because at that time I was carrying a $5,000 credit card balance. I thought that was normal. And I didn't know when it would ever get paid off. At 25% interest, paying $50 a month, I probably would still be paying on that credit card bill. So he says that every month he doesn't carry a credit card balance. And what does that mean? That means when he charges something on his credit card, he pays it off. All credit card companies give you, 30 days to pay it off at no interest. What does that mean? That means you're borrowing money from the credit card to manage your life interest free. That's interest free, meaning they're not going to charge you interest until after the 30-day period. And they're not going to send you bills that you owe money because you didn't owe any money. So what did I do? I took a large sum of money somewhere, that's number one, that my mother told me, and I paid off my credit card balance down to zero. They would love to send me another bill with that interest on there, but they can't because I paid the whole thing off.
You should never buy something that you can't buy at least twice. Like being able to afford something doesn't just mean you have enough money, but like you have enough money to buy it at least 2 times.
We all inherit something when it comes to money. A lesson from a parent, advice from a grandparent, a warning from a teacher, a habit we watched growing up. Those lessons matter. They are a part of our families, our cultures, and our communities. But they shouldn't be the only financial education a young person receives. Because what happens when no one in your household was taught how credit works? What happens when your family has never had the opportunity to invest? When no one can explain a student loan, a retirement account, interest rates, taxes, or how to recognize a predatory financial product. Financial knowledge is passed from one person to another, but so are the gaps in that knowledge. Where you grow up, what school you attend, or what your family already knows about money should not determine whether you enter adulthood prepared to make financial decisions or not. That's why financial education in our schools matter. A financial education requirement in Massachusetts could be life-changing. Research highlighted by Champlain College shows that financial instruction can improve credit outcomes, reduce loan delinquency, help young people avoid predatory financial traps, and support better borrowing decisions. These benefits can be especially important for low-income and first-generation college students navigating major financial decisions for the first time. Across the country, 30 states now require financial literacy education in schools. Massachusetts is not one of them. Senate Bill S2988 would change that by guaranteeing Massachusetts high school students access to standalone, semester-long financial literacy courses. Although the Senate did not take up S2988 before formal legislation sessions ended on July 31st, the bill remains alive in the Senate Committee on Ways and Means, and the conversation is far from over. At the Midas Collaborative, we believe financial knowledge should be a right. Families will always pass down lessons about money. Culture will always influence how we save, spend, share, borrow, and build wealth. We don't want to replace those lessons. We want every young person to have the knowledge to build upon them. Imagine a generation of Massachusetts students who leave high school not only carrying the financial wisdom of the people who came before them, but equipped with the knowledge to make their own informed decisions and eventually pass down even more knowledge to the generation that follows. That is what financial education can make possible. But making that vision a reality will take all of us. Visit www.midascollab.org to learn more about how we can gain a financial education requirement for every Massachusetts student and join the Financial Empowerment Network. FEN is a statewide coalition of educators, nonprofits, community organizations, banks, credit unions, and individuals working together to advance financial literacy across Massachusetts. Today, more than 50 organizations are a part of that effort.